Hello, welcome back. In this module, we're going to actually, again, it will be in two parts, and we're going to dive in more depth into the query technology. In this case, we're going to bring data from a database, in this case, a SQL Server database, which has multiple tables that I'm interested in, and I want to create a model made of this collection of tables. And then also we're going to, in the second part, mesh the data, to create a mashup of this data with data coming from text files, make them seem like as if they come from the same source. So there's a lot of query technology which we're going to see in this part. So again, we are looking at Excel. Currently, there's really nothing in this Excel. There's no data model, there are no tables, nothing. So I'm going to, again, to the data, and in there, I will going to start a new query. In this case, it's not a file, it's a database. You see the list of databases, it's pretty long. If you browse further down, you will see that there are really a long list, an interesting list of data sources available. In these other sources, you will see Active Directory, you'll see Exchange, CRM, Facebook, Salesforce, but we are going to use something more common, which is a SQL Server database. So I'm connected to the database, and it first of all asks me what is the name of the server. The server is, this is the name of the server. Actually, it's the machine I'm using myself, and I'm clicking OK. Now, the first time I'm using this source, it asks me for what kind of credentials do I want to use. You want to use my current credentials, which is like regular Windows authentication. Give me a warning about encryption. I click OK, and it will now actually present to me with this navigation dialog showing me the list of databases. This is the database that I'm going to use. There's a checkbox here that allows me to select multiple tables, and actually I want to select all the tables. Every time I'm in a table, as you can see, it shows me a preview of the content of this table in the database. In some cases, it could be even as the entire table, but mostly it's just a subset of the columns of this database. And I'm not ready to use these tables as they are, so I'm going to click here, the Edit, and it will bring me into the same editor window that we saw before, but it tells me that there's a preview already cached, and I can refresh it, and then I'm sure that actually I'm looking at the up-to-date data. So I see here on the left side, I see the list of tables that I imported, and I can switch between each one of them and apply some steps to each one of this. So what do I want to do? I want to go to the sales table, and first of all, I see here that I have a zip code and a country. In this case, the data is just from one country, the USA. But if I go to the locations table, the locations table have actually information about each one of these zips of this region. So I have here a zip code and a country, but I also have the city, the state, the region, so on. And if I go here and I see the list of countries, I see that there's actually more than one country. It actually shows me just USA and France. There's more, but actually in the preview that it reads so far, because now I'm looking at the preview of the data, not all the data. It saw only USA and France. So the problem with that is that I would like to create a relationship between this sales table and the locations table. Only that a relation, and I didn't mention it before, a relationship can be done only based on one column in each side. So I can connect zip to zip, but the problem is that the same zip code can actually appear in multiple countries. And so it means that the zip code is not unique in the locations table. And it's also not unique. It could be potentially not unique on the sales. Well, obviously, it's not unique in the sales table because there's multiple rows for each zip. And the relationship has to be unique at least on one side. We said that each relation is a one-to-many. So on the one side, it has to be unique. So what can I do? I can create a combination between country and zip. I click on it, I control-click on that, and now I want to say that I want to add a column, another option to create a column. Remember, we had calculated columns in the model, but this one is a column that is created from a, in Power Query, in the query, sorry. It says, okay, do you want a separator between them? No, I don't want. I just want the data itself. And I will call the result column, I will call it location. And here it is. I see a location coming here. I have to do the same on the other side so that eventually I will be able to create the relationship between those two. So merge those two in the same way, call it location. Here we go. Now we have a location here and location there, which I will be able eventually to create a relationships from. What else do I want to do? I want to have data here from 2008. I don't need all this data, this historic data. I only want to start my analysis starting from 2010. So I can go here and apply a filter. It recognizes this as a date, and I say you can apply a date filter, and I want to apply a filter that says I just want data where the date is after 10/31, 2010. So starting from January of 2011. So this would just filter. Now, everything I filter here is actually going to import just the data that I filtered. It's not just a matter of showing me right here in the editor less or more data. It's actually about going and later on, when it goes to import the entire data set, it will import only the data which is comply with this filter. So now I think I'm ready to go. The other tables I don't need to do anything to. So I can go back here and I say close and load. I know that my default is already to put the data into the model. So we'll know that I will actually get multiple tables into the model. I click load and now it starts loading. You see that it's doing some loading in parallel. First, it has to read them from the database. Then it needs to put them into the data model. Now you see that it's making progress on the sales table. Even this subset of data from 2011 is almost 2 million rows. So we're waiting a little bit to this data to finish. And it will also, because I import from multiple tables, it will look to see if there are relationships that could be recognized from the database. In the database, we have something called referential integrity, relationship between tables. And let's now see what indeed it was recognizing. So I can go to the manage table. I can see my multiple tables. Manage. Okay, here's the tables. I see that the sales table in the bottom here, it says that it has 1,800,000 and something rows, 800,000. If I switch to diagram view, you'll see that the tables, some of them are connected and some of them are not. The sales is connected to the products table. The products table is connected to a little table that has just information about the manufacturers. But the locations table is not automatically connected to the sales table, and this is because the column that the actual relationship exists only between the additional custom column that I created. Remember, they were called location. So now I can actually drag the connection here and create the relationship manually. Every time you need a relationship and the relationship is not recognized automatically, you can actually go here and just do this dragging and create the relationship. It's pretty simple. So once I've done that, actually my model is ready. I can so go to the insert, pivot table, like we did a few times before. I can close this tab for the workbook queries for now, and I can start using data coming from this. I have the revenue, Again, for manufacturer, I can see revenue by manufacturer, and from the products, I can, so I have the data ready coming from this tables. So this will conclude the first part of this module. In the next part, we're going to add another table that is actually required to do more sophisticated analysis, a calendar table. And also, we're going to bring data and mesh it up with the data that we brought from SQL Server, and we're going to analyze all this data together. See you on the next part.